Welcome to Eggs and Issues, a monthly business program presented by the Portland Community Chamber of Commerce. Listen weekday mornings to Ken and Matt on the WGAN Morning News. Eggs and Issues is supported by presenting sponsors, Bank of America and Martins Point Healthcare, in cooperation with Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, First Light Fiber, and WEX. And now, please welcome Portland Community Chamber of Commerce President Jack Lufkin.
Good morning. Good morning. It's fantastic to see a full house on today. What's going to be a fantastic panel discussion. I want to welcome you all. Welcome to spring, despite what the thermometer says. I think there's even a rumor that the Sea Dogs play their home opener this Friday, so we're all very excited about spring. So, as mentioned before, my name is Jack Lufkin. I work, my day job is with KeyBank, and I am the volunteer president of the Portland Community Chamber of Commerce. We will have a great presentation today, which will be a discussion about integrating the immigrant community into the community and workforce. Now, you may have noticed the artwork on display in both the coffee reception area as well as near the stage. That is the work of the talented Orson Horschler, president of Bondico, a Portland-based construction and renovation company which actively trains and hires immigrants, refugees, and asylum seekers, as well as he's a local artist. Thank you for displaying your work today, and it's a wonderful addition to today's topic. So. Also on your table is the inaugural edition of Incomer magazine. This is a magazine which will be a quarterly magazine highlighting economic, cultural, and political contributions of new Americans in Greater Portland. The Chamber is a proud contributor to this magazine. The Incomer magazine is made up of Tay Chong as editor, Layla Carger, publisher, and Jess Lacey is the creative director. I'll put in a little plug that they are currently seeking advertisers for their June issue. So if you'd wish to be part of that, please contact one of those folks. A couple of updates before we get on to our presentation. First and foremost, I do want to get serious and talk to you very quickly about an ordinance that is currently being reviewed with the Health and Human Services Committee of the City of Portland, and then it will go on to the City Council. There's a proposal that has been brought forward which would create a mandatory paid sick leave in Portland. And every business, regardless of size, would need to pay every employee full-time, part-time, seasonal, up to 48 hours or sick days of paid sick leave per year. We've been discussing this proposal with the business community, and we've learned that there are increased business costs that will go just beyond the cost of providing the time off, compliance to track, potential overtime paid to other employees to cover shifts, et cetera. Not to mention the complications this will cause businesses who have locations both inside the city and outside the city. Our goal of the Chamber is to make sure that businesses are aware and that this is being deliberated. As I mentioned, the Health and Human Services Committee is going to give the public a chance to weigh in and talk about this on Tuesday, April 24th at 5:30 at City Hall. And then the Chamber is also hosting an information session this Thursday at the Chamber. That is going to be an informational session hosted with the Maine Retailers and the Maine Restaurant and Innkeepers Association. That's going to happen April 12th, 2 to 3:30 at the Chamber offices. For more information, you can connect with somebody at the Chamber about that. So thank you for your attention as it relates to that. Now, the weather was not kind to us in March, and we had our March Eggs and Issues canceled twice due to snowstorms. But we are committed to letting the show go on. So please consider joining us on Thursday, April 19th, for a mashup of our two signature events where Eggs and Issues meets Kegs and Issues for Kegs and Eggs. Still wondering if that's deviled eggs or if it's going to be scrambled, but we'll figure it out. So. The Chamber is pushing the start time till 4 o'clock, but it will keep to the sort of the Eggs and Issues format that we all know. We won't be served a full breakfast, but there will be an appetizer and a cash bar. Steve Hewins, CEO and President of the Maine Restaurant Association, will be our moderator and will lead a discussion with our all-star chef panel. Josh Berry from Union Restaurant, Steve DeMillo from DeMillo's, and David Turin of David's Restaurant, and we all hope that you can join us. Am I correct in saying, Quincy, that if folks were registered for the Eggs and Issues, you are registered for Kegs and Eggs? So if you've already bought yourself a ticket, please show up at the event. Do they have to re-register or anything? No, you're good. Come on by. So, another upcoming special event is being hosted by our friends from People's United Bank, where they will discuss succession planning. Hear the perspective of 4 successful companies on how to identify and develop potential successors for key leadership positions. This one you do have to register for. Please register online and plan to attend on Tuesday, April 24th from 3 to 5 o'clock at Rising Tide Brewing Company. Moving on to a highlight of our event each month, and that is recognizing new Chamber members. You will see on the slides all of our new members who joined the Chamber in March and April. I would like to welcome those new members who are with us today, and they are Biodiversity Research Institute, Cozy Harbor Seafood, Family Wealth Management Partners at UBS, Horizon Digital Marketing, Maine Food for Thought, New England Arab American Organization, Portland Container Company, Remax Shoreline Falmouth Luxury Collection Office, and Skyterra Technologies. Welcome to the Chamber. We invite you to please stand so that we can applaud, and hopefully you'll be members with us for a very long time. Now I'd like to take just a moment to thank our generous sponsors for making this event and many of our events at the Chamber possible. Our presenting sponsors are Bank of America, Martins Point Healthcare, Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, I'm moving on to our cooperating sponsors, Harvard Pilgrim, WEX, and First Light. Our reception sponsors are Verrill Daner, Clark Insurance, KeyBank, and our parking sponsor is CV and Mahar Engineers. Headlight Audio Visual provides us with our overall production support. The Forecaster is our print sponsor. MainBiz is our e-media partner. And WGAN is our radio sponsor who interviews speakers and broadcasts live right here every month. WMTW is our broadcast partner. And we'd like to thank our special community partners, Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield, Spectrum Healthcare, University of Southern Maine, and Southern Maine Community College. So thank you to those sponsors. AAA Northern New England and Springborn Staffing provides support for our Tomorrow's Leaders and Entrepreneurs program, which allows area high school and college students to attend Eggs and Issues. And we have a large contingent today in the audience, and I'm very, very pleased about that. Today we have students from Falmouth, Gorham, Portland Public Schools, Portland Education Foundation, Southern Maine Community College, University of Southern Maine, and the Maine Girls Academy. So I would invite you, if you are with that organization, please stand and let us recognize you. Thanks. The Portland Public Library is our FMI for More Information sponsor, and they will be providing information after this event, which you will receive in your inbox. Baker Newman and Noyes sponsors our Community Corner program, which allows an area nonprofit member to promote their organizations at Eggs and Issues. This month's Community Corner is none other than the Greater Portland Immigrant Welcome Center. The Welcome Center serves as a hub of collaboration that strengthens the immigrant community through language acquisition, economic integration, and civic engagement. They provide a shared working space for community stakeholders, access to a robust database, and other resources in an effort to elevate the agenda of immigrant integration. With us today from the Greater Portland Immigrant Welcome Center, we have Alan Nahmana. Where's Alan? Thank you, Alan. The Executive Director of the Center, as well as individuals from the New England Arab American Organization, the New Mainers Tenant Association, Maine Immigrants' Rights Coalition, and the Maine Intercultural Communications Consultants. Please stand and be recognized. Now, without further ado, because you didn't come here to listen to me this morning, we will be on to our presentation today. As a reminder, we have microphones. We have 2 microphones staged throughout the room. We're going to have a panel discussion, but at the conclusion of that, there will be an opportunity for you to come up and ask a question. We do ask that you go to the microphone so that everyone can hear your question, say who you are, what organization you represent, but we will make sure we have time for that at the end. Today's presentation is a special one for the Chamber, and we are excited to see so much interest from the broader community. We have been working diligently and collaboratively with other groups around supporting the immigrant community, finding ways we can be helpful, finding ways we can help immigrants integrate into the community to find meaningful employment which matches their skill sets. Today's presentation was born of a strong collaboration between the Chamber, the City of Portland's Office of Economic Opportunity, the Greater Portland Workforce Initiative, the Career Center of Greater Portland, and Bank of America. Today, these organizations are proud to announce their collaborative called Greater Portland Hires. That's an acronym for Greater Portland Hiring Immigrants to Reach Economic Security. This effort is focused on helping immigrants find meaningful employment with an opportunity for career advancement. Today marks the first of many conversations we plan to have around the integration of immigrants. The Chamber understands the important role we can play, and we're committed to supporting immigrants and helping them find economic opportunities for themselves and for their families. If you look on the table, you should have a postcard. This will provide you with a link down at the bottom, portlandmaine.gov/OEO. If you would like to find out more information around opportunities for diversity and inclusion, there's a survey that you can get to when you click on that link, and you can also just find out more information about the Office of Economic Opportunity. And we will email that link out to our members today as well. So, wonderful. We're on to the presentation. So today's presentation will be a panel discussion on integrating immigrants into both our community and to our workforce. To kick off today's presentation, I would like to introduce our moderator, Julia Trujillo. Julia serves as the director of the newly formed Office of Economic Opportunity at the City of Portland. Their mission is to work collaboratively to assure access for underserved populations. She has been in this role since July of 2017, and prior to, she served as the director for Maine's Department of Health and Human Services Multicultural Affairs Office. So without further ado, I welcome to the stage Julia.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me today. I am excited to be part of this dialogue this morning and the first of many conversations that we'll be having from now on. I've already been giving the message from Quincy that I need to shorten my presentation, so bear with me. When we started having this conversation back in probably July last summer, we quickly realized that even the first challenge in really moving this needle that many of us have been trying to move for a long time, perhaps even starts with language and the words that we use, that often we refer to immigrants as new Mainers, as new Americans, as foreign-born population, and not everybody feels comfortable in this space. I tend to use the term foreign-born and immigrant, but I think at the end of the day, we can all agree that we are referring to men and women who were born in different corners of the world, were raised in different corners of the world, and called Maine home today. I would like to take this opportunity, if there are any members of this audience that either were born or raised in a different country other than the United States, to please stand up to get a sense of who is in the room. I will will skip that slide. So I was asked to give a little bit of context before this panel discussion. And I'll just give some very brief data. I won't overwhelm you with all the data that I have in my head and I have access to. We're talking about, when we discuss the immigrant population or the foreign-born population, is roughly around 10% of our region or our city. I would argue probably it's even higher than that. But more interestingly than that, I think when we look at the 75% figure, they account for 75% of the growth that has occurred since 2013. So that is quite significant when we are discussing, and I don't have a lot of time to discuss today, the demographic winter that we are all aware that exists. Where are people coming from? I could give you slide upon slide, and I won't go much detail as to why people come here, what the different statuses, the different pathways. This is data coming from Portland Adult Ed, which is the biggest convener for English language services in the city. So as we can see, we see the Congo, Angola, Iraq, Burundi, Rwanda. And if we look at the primary refugees coming through Catholic Charities, the ones that are being resettled directly here in Portland, we also see similar trends, being Iraq and the Congo and Somalia as the most notable countries of origin. This population is young, skilled, and motivated. Again, I don't have time, and I know a lot of you businesses out there in the workforce challenge see this every day. We have a really challenging population problem here in Maine. We have a tight labor market, we have an aging workforce, we have very low birth rates, and go on and on and on and on. But I'm here to tell you the opportunity that this population represents. Their median age is 34 years old, instead of the 42 years that the native-born present. Also, when we look at college and graduate school enrollments, they also represent a higher percentage of their native-born and the native counterparts. When we look at a local data source like the New Mainers Resource Center or Portland Adult Ed, if you don't know anything about the New Mainers Resource Center, I think I've seen some brochures on the table. Please check it out. They're a great resource to the community. We see a similar trend, undergraduate degrees, graduate degrees, in that it continues to grow. But there's a lot of work to be done. That's why my office partially exists. We have a disconnect. There's a high unemployment rate within this population. So we have to do a much better job at connecting the dots across the board. And this opportunity, a public-private sector partnership, is one of the most tangible solutions. I will skip that. I will skip that. And I wanted to also show that we are very motivated, that I think we also like to the conversation that we're having today is not only about how to integrate immigrants into our workforce, but also how to make them be part of our community. Because as we all know, we need to retain everybody that is in Maine today here. And for us as immigrants, a quarter of our soul is left behind when we leave our home countries. So it is very important to try to fill that soul in meaningful participation in our socioeconomic fabric here in our city. So we'll be discussing that with the panel as well. And now I think I don't have the time to introduce you to all these people that stood up and their stories, which I know a lot of them, and they're amazing. But I'd like to show you a video that gives you a sense, a little brushstroke of who we have here in our city as a major source of talent. It's only three. Here's Zaid, Deborah, and Alicia for you.
My name is Alicia Shkot. I'm from Russia. I was born in the city of Volsky, that is next to Volgograd, which is probably better known than Volsky. And after graduating from that was the place where I was born and where I went to the college. And after graduation, I moved to Moscow, and I spent last 13 years working in Moscow before we moved to the States.
My name is Deborah Viana da Silva, and I come from Brazil. When I lived my first 19 years old, and it is in the south of Brazil, island in the Atlantic Ocean. It's a beautiful place to go.
My name is Zaid Al-Abbasi. I came from Iraq. I was born in Samara, that divided by Tigris River in the middle of Iraq. and I grown up there for 26 years before I moved to Turkey.
Yeah, so I have master's degree in linguistics. So based on that, I can either teach or interpret from English and German into Russian. But I actually have never worked only based on my diploma. I did use my knowledge of foreign languages as an additional skill, and that did help me with building my career. But my jobs were connected with HR. So again, it wasn't the first career path that I took. It took me some time to get there. But last 10 years I've been doing HR as a recruitment consultant in international staffing firms. So it was basically a combination of HR and business development.
In Brazil, I did building technician, and my first job was working in a hospital in the department of maintenance, with all things related with architectural things, like new building, furniture, and renovation. And with 19, I moved to Spain, and in Spain I did I started the college, and at the same time I got a job as architectural designer.
I worked with Ministry of Science and Technology as a chemist. I was working there as a chemist and assist of manager lab. So all of these experience and others that I bring here when I come here.
It took me some time to find the job that I wanted. To be exact, it took me almost a year to find the job that I wanted, but I was lucky to get it. And so now I'm working for a company, a manufacturing company, and I'm an HR generalist / recruitment manager, and I've been in this role for over 6 months at this point.
There are a lot of different things here. The first one is the language, different culture. But it's possible. Now I'm working in port city architecture, and I'm very happy and very motivated. And there are another thing, you have different professional technology here. So that is a thing that foreigner people need to work a little bit.
I've been applying for more than 100 jobs within my field here in Maine. And I didn't get anything yet. I know some of very good places like Maine Medical, and they have very good institute that I applied for them. And also you have IDEX and the other universities that I can lecture in there and working as a professor. So I think you have lots of things to help me to achieve my goals here in Maine.
Even though I understand that for a lot of employers, it's a little bit challenging and scary to hire immigrants or ESL population because they're not like them. So we tend to like people who are like us, who look like us, who talk like us, who behave like us, and that is understandable and clear. However, again, to be successful, as the same principle as in business applies to HR as well. So to be successful, you have to be different.
My advice for them is I would like they know how to profit our skills, because we have a lot of skills and we can bring them good things for the company and for the country too.
I advise them to just take a few seconds more looking on our resumes, especially the evaluated resumes like mine, and I'm sure they will find better than they are looking for.
Can you stop the video right here? Sorry about that, but time is time. So I would like to now introduce you to the panel discussion that we'll be having. Please come to the stage. Brian Skozinski from Ready Seafood, Mark Brazier from the Portland Museum of Art, and Gene Ardito, cPort Credit Union. I should say that Brian is the operations manager at Ready Seafood, and Mark is the director at PMA, and obviously Gene Ardito is the CEO of cPort. So let's start with a very straightforward question. Why is employing or serving a diverse population, an immigrant population, important to your company or organization?
I can start. Okay. Again, from Ready Seafood, biggest thing that we've realized is we're always talking in our office about finding ways to add brain power to our organization, working smarter, working harder, and talking with new Mainers as they come into the company, realized they've come with such a diverse work history and background. A lot of them may have been electricians, previous business owners, nurses, med students, and a lot of them, it's just not transferable when they come here to the U.S. And it's just kind of pushed us so much further each day, new sets of eyes looking at different issues that kind of come up. Again, tagging on what Yulia said about the dwindling workforce, we have to get kind of creative in the way that we're looking for new employees every day. And right now, between our two organizations, Ready Seafood and Maine Seafood Ventures, we have about 50 new Mainers employed in our organization. When I first met Yulia, it's been kind of night and day. She introduced us to the general assistants and our contacts there, Amanda and Abir. And just to give you a quick story of how that started and how it's really turned our company completely around. I remember we were hiring for 8 positions, and I met with them and kind of went over kind of the skills that were required. And the next morning they said, we've got a couple candidates I'd like to bring down. And I remember opening the warehouse door, and they had brought down 25 qualified candidates. And anybody in this room who is responsible for hiring on the operations side or HR side knows that that just does not happen. And since we've started working with them, they've done that every single time. And it's completely changed our company. So this is a great meeting for me to be involved in, just because I think there's so much more that we can do as a company, and I'm excited to kind of spark the conversation with that.
Right.
I can go.
Okay.
So cPort Credit Union is the fastest growing credit union in the state of Maine in terms of member growth. And that is mostly due to our ability to serve the immigrant community as customers, members. So this particular issue is very important to us. We also employ immigrants, new Mainers, at cPort so that they can better serve our members. So from a business perspective, this is such an important issue, and I think it's important from both the customer standpoint, but also as an employer perspective, that we get to know the immigrant community and understand what their issues are so we can better assimilate them into our communities.
Mark,
Thank you both. Thanks, Julia, and thanks for the Chamber for this important conversation. It's really wonderful to see so many people here today. The museum does have 85 employees, and we do have first-generation immigrants at the museum, but I think I'm really here to kind of fill in the gaps here, in the sense that these folks are doing a great job providing jobs and expanding our economy, which we all know we need greatly. But the other part of it is retaining people who are either newly born, staying in the state, immigrants coming here. Retention is the key, as Julia said, and that's really where culture and education steps in. And so whether it's the museum, telling room, the welcoming center, I see Javier Botana from the Portland Public Schools, we have to fill in those gaps so that we be sure that these folks who are here stay here. And so it's being incredibly welcoming, it's being incredibly accessible. And accessible for us at the museum means everything from being free on Friday night to actually launching a program tomorrow where we're going to be free for everybody under 21 forever. And it's about creating opportunities. Thank you. And it's really a great place to be. And the culture organizations are really stepping up, and so is USM and Maine Law and UNE. And I think there's the culture and education is what's really going to drive and motivate our communities to all come together to share stories.
Great. I didn't have a lot of time to discuss, but this is a question I get often: is how work ready is this population? And I can't really give you a blanket answer. I mean, we're all unique in our own ways, but there are some consistent challenges like English proficiency, U.S. work experience that we certainly face on a consistent basis. So if you have faced some of these challenges or other challenges like it, what are some lessons learned, some internal practices that you have shifted in order to circumvent these challenges and produce solutions?
At our organization, one of the biggest things we've realized is, again, with the changing population, is flexibility. Flexibility has really become one of the most important parts as running the operations. A lot of new Mainers, when they come in, have a lot of more requirements in the day-to-day than some of the other employees, specifically in the arena of education. A lot of them are required to either take day or night courses for English language training. And us working around that schedule, 3 years ago we were very structured in the way your start time's here, your end time's here. But to retain and keep these employees, we've really had to kind of understand the importance of that flexibility in schedules. The other thing that we've done as an organization is really take time to slow down. It's so important to understand what everybody's going through in their day-to-day. And that's true not just for the new Mainers, but we've got guys from the Cumberland County Work Release Program. We've got guys that are just out of college. We've got guys that have come from maybe larger organizations. And one of the most interesting things and fulfilling things that we've done is we meet kind of on a weekly and monthly basis. And you quickly realize that everybody's going through the same things, just in a different sense, whether it's housing or whether it's finding a babysitter, or taxes. Everybody's going through the same issues. So we've found kind of these common grounds, but communication has been the key.
Yeah, I think what you said, Brian, about flexibility is important. What I learned, and just because of this session, I probably should have done this before, but I spent more time with some of our new Mainer employees, just to listen to what they're dealing with. And it was incredible, but it was also very helpful for me as CEO of our organization to better provide support to them. What I learned was that some of our younger immigrant employees is that until they have permanent status here, they can't file a FAFSA form to get any kind of financial aid to go to college. And so being flexible in terms of as an employer to allow them to work so that they can pay for college. I know that SMCC does a great job in terms of providing support to the immigrant community, and because it's a low-cost provider. So I think just for us as leaders to better understand the community so that we can bring them into our organizations as employees, but also from a customer standpoint, understanding that what their needs are, because we need them as businesses, right, to bring them into our businesses as customers, so that we have that nice balance of customers as well as employees.
Well, yeah, I'm also thinking, patience, and really thinking about the onboarding process. And I know one of the things we all talked about before we got up here was the term "from away," and for a lot of us, it's a very kind of old-fashioned way of saying, "Oh, they're from away; they don't know any better." But in a lot of ways, it's kind of symbolic of language that separates difference and alienates people. And even though it's got a folksy tone to it, and it's a very old-school Maine thing to say, I think we all have to think more about the language that we use and the way in which we want to be more welcoming and inclusive. And I think both of you all are doing a great job. But the welcoming and onboarding, we find, particularly when we have new immigrant employees sitting down and hearing their stories. And often after the rest of the staff hear the stories, they're so amazed by what these people have gone through and how they got here, that they then become a motivated colleague in the workplace, even if the language barrier is there. And trying to get all of our staffs to be patient with the language. It's the key in many ways, because we're finding those folks who are patient in ways end up being the most loyal employees. And even when they move past us to a better job, they have a place in their heart for the museum.
That's great. I think we have time for one more question. What do you hope to do better in integrating new Mainers or immigrants both into your organization or business, or as a collective, as all of us? What could we be doing better?
I think for us, it's really kind of finding ways to have more kind of step-down approaches to more of integration. I feel sometimes when we're bringing in new Mainers and we get them acclimated to what we're doing, and it almost feels from the other side that they're kind of on their own. And I think this is a good thing on the business side to kind of, as we kind of start to work together a little bit more with the city specifically on more kind of step-down approach to giving these guys a support system. I know a lot of people in here, I mean, we probably got everything covered, but we're not all communicating together. So when we get a question, or our HR department gets a question on a housing issue or a bank issue, I think the more we can centralize kind of our ideas will make it streamlining the approach to kind of how we're being the support system is kind of the thing we need to work on the most.
You know, for me, I think there are a lot of terrific organizations in the Portland community that can support the immigrant community. Many of them are here today. Community Financial Literacy, Greater Portland Welcome Center. There's an organization in Westbrook, ICC, Intercultural Community Center. I think for us, getting involved in the community is really helpful to understand the issues so that we can do a better job with our employees. Listening is really key. I think all those things are important. I do want to touch on the whole term immigrant versus new Mainer. It's a tough situation. I don't know sometimes what to say. You know, are you an immigrant? My mother is an immigrant. You know, she came from Italy in 1939. So I'm passionate about that issue, but I think the more dialogue that we have with them, you know, it will help in terms of breaking down those barriers, because we're all here, you know, for the good of the community, and it's so important that we be supportive. So we're constantly learning. I think that's another thing. Just constantly look for ways to understand the issues and be involved in the community.
I think we all have to be, as Julia said, incredibly aware of the demographics. Literally, we are aging. Young people are leaving. We're still, I think, the least diverse state in the country. And if we don't get that word out that we need people, this is just a survival mode for us right now. Not only it's having employees, it's having members of a museum, it's people going to the symphony, people going to Telling Room. We need to grow our population. And I think, as both of you all said, it's a strategy we all have to attack together, and we have to find ways to manage this, because if you look at the trends, they're so bad that if we don't start now and all start together, the social fabric and the economy will eventually just fall apart. I mean, the trends are there. We just have to communicate better what it means and how we can change them. If we don't create inspirational leaders like these two about how we can change those trends, we're going to be in real trouble.
Can I just say one other thing? In terms of attracting and retaining employees, with the unemployment rate at whatever, 2%, you have to have a culture that inspires people to come to work for you these days. Mm-hmm. And the more diverse your employee base is, the more likely you will attract the types of people you want working for you. And I think that is so important today that we recognize that as employers.
Thank you, Jean, for adding that. That was a question I don't have time for, so I'm glad you added that piece. So I think with further ado, maybe we have reached the point for Q&A for the larger group. So if anybody has questions, I think there's a microphone there that I can see and another one over there.
Hi. Amy Jolly with Maine Girls Academy. In watching the video, I was really struck by that last gentleman who said, well qualified, he still didn't have a job after a year. Mm-hmm. So this is obviously someone maybe applying for a higher end job. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if you have best practices you'd share with the group about reducing implicit bias in perhaps the initial screening of resumes or in that part of the job search? Thank you.
I think from us, from my perspective, it's not something we even really look at. Getting back to that, what we've seen, we've gained from an international type of workforce is unbelievable. So it's actually an advantage that we see on a resume. Like I said, that diversity of skill set, that diversity of perseverance are all things that are definitely weighed when we go through the application process, and is definitely seen as a plus on our side for hiring.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing the background that they have, and you know, trying to find ways to match that background with our needs is sometimes challenging. I do hope that we can keep these talented people in the community, because it's so important, as you both said.
I mean, another piece for us is actually, which is another part of this question, is hiring, getting diverse candidates for executive positions as well. It's a little bit different, but it's actually similar in the bigger picture. So what we're trying to do with the implicit bias question is really being sure, if we're working with an HR headhunter, we're saying, bring us a diverse set of candidates. You know, if you can't bring us a diverse set of candidates, we're going to throw the pile back at you, excuse me, and start all over again. Because we really have to be thinking about how to do that.
And I will add a few things. First off, that Zaid is sitting right in the back. I see him, even though maybe he doesn't want to stand up. So if you have specific questions for him, he's here today. I think the best practices that I've seen is part of what he was talking about, is really taking those extra few seconds to look beyond. And I've been in a position of hiring, and HR has given me two piles, the disregarding pile and the pile that I'm supposed to look at. And I always look at the other pile and bring people to my pile, because we have to have those conversations. We have to have those questions. Why? Why am I not seeing these customers here? Why am I not seeing these candidates? Just push yourself a little bit more. And a reminder, the postcard, if you want to learn more about that, go to that website, click on that link, and we will be offering free, at no cost, professional development opportunities for anybody who wants to learn more about how to integrate immigrants into your own workforce. Sorry about that.
Good morning, Julia. My name is Tony Payne from MEMIC. I'm part of the problem. I'm old. I'm white.
We love you, Tony. We love
Thank you, Mark.
Tony.
I'm male. But I say that in jest, but what Mark said is we are on a slow train wreck, and if we don't step up and do something about it, we're in great trouble. So a couple of things. I'm going to make two pitches and then a question. The pitch is, if you haven't been to the Immigrant Welcome Center, go. It is fascinating, and they need funding for English language lab stations. That is the big ticket right now in terms of getting people into the workforce and off of the bench. The other is the community financial literacy. Our new Maine friends need to learn to navigate, and they too need resources, they need help, they need volunteers. The point, though, is that for all of us, I would say fairly that we're all serial networkers. That's why we're here this morning. We're here to develop opportunity. So the question I've got for the panel and for you, Julia, are what can we be doing beyond interviewing and beyond getting people to find job opportunities? What can we do in a formal way that would allow us to mentor? How do we connect with people that may not even be in our business but can introduce? Because introduction probably is the greatest piece of capital that we have that can accelerate this process.
I can start. You touched on a great point, is the networking side. Going back to my story, when they brought in 25 candidates, that was almost like a great networking event for us. And from that point, we hired, I think, 9 people that day. But getting more of an outreach so that they're talking more to the business side. 3 years ago, we weren't even really looking at new Mainers. It was just posted an ad on Craigslist. Like we talk about the dwindling workforce, and specifically on the working waterfront, is the drug epidemic. There's a lot of factors that are playing into the types of employees that we need to get. And these skill sets that new Mainers are bringing into our facility is unbelievable. So the more that we can be setting up outreach programs and just be getting them an understanding of what we do, what our expectations are, how you climb the ladder in our organization, and also giving them a sense on the business side about just the simple day-to-day things that we kind of have a complete understanding on, but how things are going to be broken down in your check, how a 401k program works, how a health insurance works, and what their steps should be to get off of what you talked about, getting off the bench. How can we get you out of the housing you're in now and get you into a new level? So those are the big things that I think we need to work on.
Tony, I was at the Greater Portland Welcome Center last Saturday. There was a reception for a new newspaper, a African newspaper called Mjambo Africa. And they were celebrating the issue of their first newspaper. And if you get a chance, read this paper. It's phenomenal. And so I sent a note to the editor of the magazine over the weekend of the newspaper, and I said, this newspaper, which is supposed to be for the immigrant community, is better for me. I learned so much reading this newspaper about the issues, the profiles, the backgrounds. It's so important. So I think networking, reaching out, I think you have to get out there if you want to understand this community. You can't just wait for them to come to you. Reach out, go to the Welcome Center, get involved with community financial literacy. That's what we've done, and it's been good for our business. We're here as business people as well. So getting to know the community will allow you to better serve that community and attract them as customers of your business, if that's the thing that you're looking for.
And go see the Immigrant Art Show, which is on Congress Street. I mean, the show is amazing. Got a great review in the paper. You want to go experience some of people's stories, just show up. Mayo Street is also a great place to go. Maybe the Incomer magazine can list some organizations. These guys throw great family events, and often it's around food or art.
I think I also wanted to add there's best practices across the country in other countries as well that both the Chamber and I are looking to adapt and adopt here in Portland, hopefully launching in the fall of 2018. So the whole connector piece is something that we're not the only city who is experiencing that challenge, and that we're really looking actively at solving it by coming up with some initiatives that have worked in other parts of the country. Mufalo, I guess, and then Anita.
Good morning. My name is Mufalo, and I'm an immigrant from Zambia. It took me 18 years to become an executive director. So I don't trust you. What can you say? How can I build trust? I now represent an organization that advances the rights of immigrants. And I speak from experience. And when I hear immigrants say they don't trust you, we've talked. I've sat in meetings with CEOs, but nobody employed me. It had to take an organization that represents who I am, what my story is, to give me a position. So immigrants who are here, they're executive directors because they started their own organization. So we don't trust you. So how can we rebuild that trust?
Thank you for sharing. I could tell that was very emotional, and I appreciate it. How can we earn your trust? I would kind of throw it back at you and say, what are the things that we can do to earn your trust? I think the environment in Maine right now is different than it probably was when you first arrived, but that's still no excuse for the experience of you taking 18 years to get the job that you wanted to have, that you seem clearly qualified to have. What are the things that we can do, you think, to regain that trust? Sorry to put you on the spot. Back again.
I think the video did say, if you just took a second look at my resume, go past my name, you won't be able to pronounce it, no matter how much you try. But just go past that. We have been having a hard time just getting into the Maine Association of HR. If we could have a conversation, because I sat, I would meet a CEO, and the CEO would say, yeah, you're very qualified. And then the CEO would, if it was in my country, the CEO would hire me. But the CEO says, go meet HR. And the moment I met HR, that was the end of my story. So if you took a second look, and the people that take second looks are HR, they're not CEOs.
Thank you.
I can kind of touch on experiences that we've had in our organization. We're a very younger company. Most of our staff is between about 25 and 35. And a lot of the new Mainers that we're bringing in are what we call athletes, just younger, hungry, and that's what we're really looking for. I actually brought one of our employees today, Daryl, if you want to put your hand up. Daryl joined our organization about 3 years ago and went through the same process, exactly what you said. Coming through the door, had a chance to talk with him, got a little bit of a feel for his educational background, what he was looking to do, and I saw a perfect opportunity to grab that talent and really develop it. Daryl right now actually just started taking courses, some college courses. We've adjusted his schedule, and he's now going to school in the morning, coming in for more of a mid-shift. He now controls the receiving about 10% of the lobsters into the entire state of Maine. And he is only 10% of the direction that we have positioned for him. Main goal would be for him to have my job in 3 to 4 years. And that's what, when we bring somebody in, that's the number one thing I say, is that you don't want to be in the position I might be hiring you for right now. You want to be the president of this company. And the more that we can open that idea up, that people don't just think that they're set in whatever role that they may be coming into to start, but that setting that kind of that goal and what should be the thing that you're looking to obtain. Again, going back to getting off the bench, getting off of that general assistance, and how much that's going to progress you. Sometimes people look more day to day and, okay, well, if I take this, then I might get kicked out of this house because I have to have a certain salary. I get the question all the time, hey, can you not give me that raise or that promotion because I might lose the housing that I'm in right now? And those are the real issues that we deal with every day. So the more that we understand and the more that we set goals for new employees as they come in is going to be the real game changer from where I think you saw 18 years ago.
And just lastly, I just want to add quickly that if you saw the statistics before and you remember the bachelor's degree attainment and the master's degree, so if you are looking for an executive director and you are not interviewing or seeing diverse candidates from the immigrant community, then you need to ask the question, why am I not seeing them? Because they are there and they should be interviewed. And also recognizing that we don't all have the expertise or the comfort level. So if you do not admit to it and click on that link and get some professional development so you can get these candidates through your door. Anita?
Yes. My name is Anita St. Ange. I'm the director at Portland Adults Education, and I just wanted to make a little pitch for the new Maine Resource Center. You have the brochures. And I'm a relatively new director. I was not aware, as a citizen of Portland, the talent of this organization. We provide English language classes. We do job work ready classes. The new Maine Resource Center has thousands of people on an email list that if you come to us and say, I need somebody with this background, we can shoot out an email and you'll have the 25 people at your door. So I just encourage you to communicate with us, and we will be able to offer you some help.
Thank you.
Thank
you. One more question, I guess.
Hi, I'm Orson Horkler. I'm a street artist. I'm also president of a company, Bondeco, And we're raising industry standards in construction in Maine, which is their dire need for, by hiring exclusively immigrants. I never thought I'd be a boss. I had to create my own company because in spite of being much more qualified, in spite of not having an opioid problem, I was just not hired. And that's, I think, especially true in my industry where there's a strong culture, right? A strong culture associated with the industry. So my question is, what do you do when you're hiring workers who maybe don't speak English well, and even more so are outside of the dominant culture? What do you do to make sure that they play an equal part in shaping company culture?
I can kind of touch on that real quick. What we've kind of developed over the last couple of years is an understanding that people are coming in with different levels. That we talk about a lot about the language barrier. And when we first started kind of diversifying our workforce, that was the biggest thing. We were seeing a lot of turnaround just because of the language barrier. So what we really did is kind of broke it down when new hires come in. If language is something that they're still working on, we've kind of put them in little pods, little groups of 3 to 4 with one person that can kind of be the head person, communicate with them, with the supervisors directly. Then kind of our step 2 approach is starting to, as people are going to language courses, we try to push them to really use that in a work environment. So a lot of times the guys that we know can speak English fluently. We're asking them just to kind of communicate in English as much as possible. It's really for the guys that are kind of climbing up the ladder to keep gaining that knowledge and using it, the more that we can utilize it. So we found kind of breaking it into smaller groups has been a success for us.
One more question, Mr. Pius Ali, or who?
I will let her go. She was here, but I just happened to be in front of the mic.
Hi, thank you so much for this great panel today. My name is Martha Stein. I'm the Executive Director of Hope Acts. We house asylum seekers and focus on skills so people can transition not only to their new life here, but to have a really good life here. One of the things I have heard from several people who are in their first job here in Maine is that the employer welcomes them in, but the peer group that they're working in is perhaps not trained, not knowledgeable, and even maybe the first line manager. These folks will not complain. I can tell you that. They will find a new job. So I would love to hear any perspective, and I know we're running out of time, or just ask all of you to think about that as part of your retention strategy. Thank you.
Someone briefly just touch upon it, and then.
I think you just have your leaders at the top of the organization have to step up and demand expectations that are larger than they are right now, and being sure that the culture of the institution or the business is dependent on the success of these employees, and put it in their reviews. It's performance evaluation. If you don't bring along our new employees, that's a knock off you in the evaluation process. I think you really have to make it part of the structure.
I think it's part of the culture of your company. Are you the type of company that supports new Mainers when they come in and make them feel comfortable? And so that's something we try to do. I know we can always do better, and we're constantly talking about that, but that should be a cultural thing for an organization.
And real quick, just to add on the end, going back to that communication, it's so important to just slow it down and really get an understanding. You hit it right on the head. It's the people that they're going to be working with, that first layer supervisors. That's been the hardest part, specifically on the working waterfront. We have a lot of kind of, when we first started, it was tough. It was extremely difficult. But the more that people understand about people's backgrounds, their work history, where they came from, their story, and everybody's been through huge amounts of adversity. And once people realize that and understand that, it was like a light switch for our company.
I think we have to wrap it up. Thank you to our panel. I'm sorry we can't get any more questions, but I'm sure you'll have the chance to ask the panelists or anybody else the questions that you had. Thank you all for being here, for being part of this conversation. And thank you for having me.
Everybody, thank you for to our panelists on this. I just want to say very briefly, the conversation started here today will not end here today. We could have easily had hours, if not an entire day session on this, and that's something that we at the Chamber are going to have to think about how we can better serve our businesses and the immigrants in our community. So, I just want one more plug. Julia mentioned it a couple of times, but professional development has been a theme that was questioned. Go to the website and get some education on professional development. Thank you for coming today.